YouTube, what's up? This is going to come out on September 25th, 2016, which will be the 6th anniversary of my sibling Jonah's drowning. I feel like most of you don't know Jonah, but I'm certain some of you did know him. And I was supposed to write an essay in my English class for the first time of anything in my life, the first time driving a car, the first time death of my immediate family, the first day at a new school. Something that speaks out to me and write a few pages about it, so I thought I would do this to honor my sibling. And I feel kind of proud of the essay as well, so I thought I should put it out on my YouTube channel. Hope you enjoy. Hope you can learn some. Hope you learn something. Hope it leaves marks in your mind. And without further ado, let's get into it. Thesis. This was the most shocking thing that's happened in my whole life. It was also totally preventable. Had someone else been on the beach that awful day, none of this would have happened. This will leave marks on myself and many others forever. My sibling Jonah lived an incredible life that many of us will remember. He was a CNA, friend to many, academic genius, adoptive parent, and more. As anyone might say, if one can accomplish so much in 27 years, imagine what they can do or 2 or 3 times as long. Although on a mildly happy note, one might say that Jonah died a happy person. He had a big goal of fostering a severe special needs child, which Jonah had gotten through the whole process of doing. That child had made much progress living with my sibling. They had been living together for 2 months before this tragedy. Chapter 1. Incident. I thought it would just be a normal day. Jonah would typically go to the beach with his foster child and his close friend every Sunday. They would go swimming in the lake. Jonah's friend wasn't feeling well this particular day, so it was just the two of them. My sibling had rheumatoid arthritis and type 1 diabetes, which in case you don't know can make one a drowsy and out of it. Well, guess what happens if you're swimming and that happens? Well, after a while, the child was found wandering around with Jonah's backpack on, nonverbal, of course, nowhere to be found. Needless to say, one absolutely doesn't leave a nonverbal child unattended unless their life depends on it or something. Well, Jonah was declared missing, and a search team was sent out. We called Jonah's phone, but got no answer. I was overly optimistic, suspected nothing, and thought Jonah had just had a blood sugar emergency with diabetes, ran to the store to urgently get blood sugar maintenance last-minute food, which, of course, doesn't explain being gone for a few hours, but I suspected nothing until I heard the news. I heard my sister-in-law calling me upstairs. Based off her mannerisms, I thought she was just a bit annoyed at me for something minor enough. Then it hit me like a ton of bricks. Planach, she called. That's my Hebrew name. I headed up the stairs and looked at her. Jonah is dead. This hit me even harder than you would imagine because I suspected absolutely nothing. I originally thought she was simply a bit annoyed at me for something I did. What? I burst into tears. I swear I could have had a heart attack on the spot. My legs felt like jello. Drowned. Abba, your father, in Hebrew, identified the body at the hospital. Jonah was found unconscious in the lake by a kayaker who brought him to shore. She was holding back tears as we spoke. I couldn't believe anything. Is this real? Why wasn't it broken to me gently? How could this happen? I walked down the stairs crying my eyes out. I saw my brother's therapist, who gave me a hug, tried to comfort me a bit. He actually had heard the news before my parents because he was going to meet Jonah that day, but instead ran to the police in the White House, who asked him if he was related to Jonah. Like everyone else, he knew nothing of this until it happened. Later this day, I walked him back to them toward the gym. He let me walk him as much as I wanted that day. Later, I saw my elementary school's friends who tried to cover me as I studied with them a little bit. Studying Torah with mourners is a Jewish tradition. Well, Chapter 2, Aftermath, Funeral. Well, I tried going to school the next day. First day, I asked to be excused from my assignment. Telling my teacher what happened, she sent me to the counselor, who tried to comfort me. Next period, I cried in class. My teacher was immediately like, "Why do you come to school?" in a sympathetic voice. She sent me home shortly afterwards. The next day was the funeral. There were probably 200 or 300 people there, old friends of our extended family, residents of the nursing home that Jonah worked at, much of our congregation, many others, and of course, the foster child. I remember my mom in particular sobbing her eyes out as she was pointing out that he still expected Jonah's return and how attached they were to each other. But what she needed was the kind of love that Jonah was giving him. She sobbed. I distinctly remember putting my hands on the coffin before it was lowered into the ground. The coffin stared at me both with love and simultaneously, somehow like a lion roaring at me with its middle finger stuck out as if it had one. The coffin was finally lowered into the ground, making a light thud. I was given the opportunity to put in as much dirt as I wanted into the grave. I put a scoop or 2 or 3 in, but I just couldn't do any more. It was way too painful, so I could feel the dirt being poured on top of me as I cried my eyes out. We sang a few religious songs, including some of Jonah's favorites. I finally went home afterwards. It felt like the funeral lasted perhaps a year. Time doesn't fly when you're not happy. Chapter 3, Reflection Today. Quite needless to say, to this day and for every waking moment of our lives, this leaves a massive emotional mark on myself, my family, and everyone else who knew Jonah. Remembered as a friend, brother, son, adoptive parent, CNA, freedom, place, and more. Are we depressed? No, but it feels like something isn't there. It's like I once read in Social Psychology for Dummies. Love that book. We humans are very good at knowing what will make us happy or sad. We're awful at projecting how long the feeling will last. They say it only takes around 3 months to get over a loss. Of course, when one thinks of the deceased person, they will again feel sad and awful, probably for the rest of their life, but the feeling doesn't live in their mind 24 hours a day anymore. For me, I might say it was more like half a year, but of course, psychology isn't an exact science. In addition, it probably also won't surprise you at all that my parents have basically vowed to never go swimming in the lake again. Personally, I won't go when there's no lifeguard, and I only swim when I swim fins, but other than that, I still do. I have massive respect for that, though. In addition, this made me a little more superstitious. I mean, I don't buy into astrology. No offense if you do, but I was thinking how Jonah would often speak of death a lot. I was walking with him about a year before he died, and it was his birthday. Well, it's my birthday. I'll be a cube, and very possibly my last cube, Jonah said, meaning that he didn't expect to see 64. Let's see. I was also reading, only recently reading about one of Jonah's friends. He was a family friend, too, who wrote, Jonah was a dear friend of mine. He was a strong and true man, and he taught me very much. We'd been in the best in the math team in high school when he was 14 and I was 17. We have been friends since. To me, he was an authority on so many things. Chess, diabetes, autism, Judaism, queerness. I hear his voice challenging us all to be our best selves. The growth he did in his own life makes me happy to see him transform and see a strong sense of self-awareness because he had so much ahead of him to give. More than anyone I know, he spoke very frankly and honestly of death. There was this concise intensity when he spoke of it. From what he was diagnosed with diabetes, he would talk about how his life expectancy was not long and made deliberate choices in his life to not put off till tomorrow what he could do today. I remember telling him not to talk that way, but his powerful voice and self-reflection would come through. I would always remember him as standing out for what is right. He was a strong walker. He walked everywhere and had the sharpest memory. He was a beautiful writer with so much to say. He loved jokes. I learned from him to punchline in an email with the word battle. Since always Jonah had wanted to care for others. He gave me so much in his work with children with different abilities. He taught me the word defabled. Jonah was a Scrabble genius. I've never understood or I've never liked that game personally. But this past year, he made a big step towards this dream of becoming a foster parent to a teenage boy. He pursued these goals and didn't sweat the small stuff. He did not shy away from his convictions and believed deeply. He read incredibly widely and shared his thoughtful and unique ideas. I'm so thankful to count him as a friend and so that he is gone. And now I will recite the words that he taught me. Baruch Dayanam et blessed is the true judge. One thing Jews often say when they hear someone, upon hearing someone's passing. Yeah. To me, one more lesson here is, as the saying goes, plan like you'll live forever, live like you'll die tomorrow, which is just what Jonah did. Yeah. Yeah. Alright. I think I've said what I have to say. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope it made a mark on you. I'll post a couple more articles about this in the description. I love you all. Please stay safe. Make the best of your lives. Learn from this. Be careful. And peace.